Hello fellow enjoyers of the AFL, it's Matsa here with a slightly different video. I'm going to be redrafting the 2021 AFL Draft. It was a very strong draft, as you can see by some of the names on our left side of the screen here. And I'll be emphasizing game winning over the next 10 years, someone who contributes to winning over that time period, because that's really what you want in, draft prospects. So we're going to start off matching North Melbourne's bid, which is what we should have done in real life. It's Nick Dacos going to Collingwood. What a surprise, right? So Nikos Dacos goes to number 1. I don't really need to explain this pick over here. This guy's already contributed to winning. He's won a premiership. He's going to be a Brownlow contender for the next 10 years. He'll be an All-Australian probably the next 10 years as long as he's injury-free. We know what we're getting with Dacos. Pick 2. So now North Melbourne on the clock again. We're going to select Jason Horne-Francis. Uncomfortable to see his name next to North Melbourne again. So look, in real life, I'm a North supporter. We gave Horne-Francis, the opportunity of having the glory of being pick 1 and gave him that extra 10K, whatever it was, right? Frustrating to look at it now. But at least, we ended up with Shees also, the better player, so that's all good. But anyway, so he'll contribute to winning. He'll probably be a Brownlow medalist at some point as well. He'll be contending for every year for the rest of his career as long as he's injury-free, similar to Dacos. Anyway, pick 3. So now on the clock is GWS, but it's going to be a matched bid for Sam Darcy. And now with Darcy, obviously he probably hasn't shown all of what he can do, but I think he might already be the best ruck forward player in the comp. You could argue Luke Jackson's very good at that role as well, but already he impacts up forward. He destroyed North. Impacts up forward, and probably the best second ruck. Maybe Luke Jackson is better as a second ruck, but I think in either spot he doesn't detract anything. So I think. And obviously we can see there's scope for growth because he's 205 centimeters. He's a big boy and he's just athletic. He's, he does things that, big men shouldn't be able to do. So I think these 3 are generational talents. And then there's the next few, it gets a bit interesting, right? So I'm going to put them in a tier sort of on their own there. The generational tier, 3 father sons, you could call them, like Horne-Francis. But anyway, so now GWS, they have a choice to make, right? So could they go with a guy who they already have in Callaghan? Callaghan's really good, obviously, big guy, penetrating kick of the footy. There's other options as well. But someone who went through the supplemental period, or whatever it's called, was Nick Martin. So you won't see him on this list. You won't even see him on the on the rookie draft list. He's on another list entirely. So with Nick Martin, I think the reason I'm putting him over a few other players is the fact that he has just output. His output is just insane. And also, the way he plays, it's almost like Dacos / Errol Goulden light in my eyes. He's a guy who can play on the wing. He can play half back. He's shown that he impacts up forward as well. He kicks goals. He's a play finisher. He could be a bit more efficient with it, coming up the ground. But this is a young guy who's, only really started showing his, flexing his muscles this year. So he goes at 5 to GWS, which would be an interesting fit. Kelly on one wing, him on the other wing. Both of them, can play different roles and both pretty deadly. I think it'd be an interesting fit. Now, Gold Coast is the next pick. So at pick 5, actually, this is where I'm going to put Finn Callaghan, because there are a few dudes who we could put ahead of him, but I think with Finn Callaghan, probably hasn't had the opportunity to flex his muscles enough in GWS, considering how stacked that inside midfield brigade is. But even then, out on the wing, he's impacting games. He's a big guy. He's got a very penetrating kick, scoreboard impact, unique player. I think there's plenty of growth with him as well. At that height, that type of evasion and that type of kicking skills doesn't come along too often. So he's going to go in there to Gold Coast. Now, Adelaide is on the clock at pick 6. And this is where it gets a bit interesting. Now it sort of depends like sort of what you want in a player, what you value. And based on our last premiers being Brisbane and how impactful Dane Zorko was, right? I'm going to go with free from Nazaya Wanganeen Milera. Yeah, I think this guy is the penetration in his kicking, the speed, the game-breaking abilities of him. And unlike, say, Dane Zorko, for example, he's a big guy as well. So he's, what is he, 187 centimeters. So he's got some height to him as well. I think they drafted him as a half forward, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, if I don't really remember that draft that well, but yeah, he's ended up being a really strong player. And also he's consistent output, that's what puts him over the next couple guys. Now I was discussing this with Dino, right? Here's where it gets a bit weird for me. So there's two dudes who I think are guns, right? I think these are the last of the proper All-Australian type guys, right? Like, potential All-Australian type guys in this tier. And I'm going to stick with my guns. Because people know I love a medium forward. And so who's picking here? Hawthorn, who initially picked Josh Ward. Hawthorn are going to get a guy on brand, actually, I think, with them and the way they play. It's Oliver Dempsey. Now, he was a rookie drafted player somehow, and of course, he gets to Geelong. Now, I put him here just because I think Oliver Dempsey, you look at the goal assists, you look at the score involvements, you look at the athleticism, the high marking. He's an impact player from the half forward / wing area. We don't know if he's going to become an inside mid. Can he go beyond what he is right now? Who knows? But what he is right now, it's borderline like Toby Green, but younger with longer hair. So, I think that there's plenty of scope for growth. Impact, and I'm looking at impacting winning, and he's already done it. He's already done it for Geelong. So, yeah, very solid player. So it was between him and the next guy who's going to go to Fremantle now. And that's the Mac Daddy, Mac Andrew. So, like, Dino was sort of trying to tell me, like, oh, who would you prefer, Mac Andrew or Oliver, whatever. Like, if you had to pick, or Dempsey rather, who are you going to pick? And I'm just like, look, I understand Mac Andrew has this crazy scope for, improvement. He can play defense, he can play forward, impact both sides of the ground. But, like, I think we're all getting a bit, like, what's the word? I think we're getting a bit distracted by the fact that he was, offered 1.2 mil, and that's what his contract is. I think it's quite an overpay for a dude who he's had moments, but like hasn't been consistent. You know what I mean? It's not like he's the best key forward on a team because they've got Ben King. It's not like he's the best defender. I don't know. What's he going to end up being, man? Like, is he just going to be a tall, half back who can use it well, who can intercept a little bit? I don't know. But he's 8th, man. He's 8th. So he gets the respect. He's up there. Now, the next pick is going to Richmond now. Interesting. I reckon they'd love this guy right about now. There we go. A little email there. That can go away. So, ninth. Who are we going? Yes. It's Jai Amos. Now, this guy had a little bit of a drop-off from the previous year. He only managed the 30-something goals. You know what? Actually, we'll have a little look, right? So, if we click into Jai Amos here, if that wants to load, it's going to be a little bit slow. He kicked 40 goals, not last year, but the season prior, 41, and then 36 this year. So, that was because the kicking efficiency dropped off. So, if you think of a second and third year player getting 40 goals in each season, he's projecting to be a 50 or 60 goal forward. And I think I probably should have him up at Mac Andrew just about at this point because he's already shown that he's got something there. You know what I mean? I feel like he's more of a known quantity. He just needs to get that kicking right. I think as having Tracy should help him going forward. But yeah, anyway, Jai Amos is there. I don't know. Let me know your opinions, guys, because like I might be really underrating people, or maybe I'm really overrating people. Maybe I'm buying into the Ollie Dempsey rising star, hype. I'm not too sure. But, this is just all opinion. This is just all, bit of fun, something a bit different to what we usually do on this channel. So, Fremantle are on the clock again. And this is a personal favorite of mine. That's Jake the Snake Saligo. And the thing with Saligo, he had some big games. He won the Showdown medal. He sort of dropped off a little bit. I think, a bit of that is just his body isn't ready for the rigors of being a full-time inside mid. And we could see that in, his time on ground. Like he might have had only a handful of games where he played more than 80% of the game. So I think if he can build up his body, and build up his tank to run further, you'll see the stats rise up. And then all of a sudden, he can be a second or third best midfielder on a premiership side, in my opinion. Look, that's at his very best. But, even what he is right now is also a very solid player. But if at pick 10, you're getting your second or third best mid, I think that's pretty sweet, right? And I like the way he goes about his football and the way he's very calm on the ball. He doesn't rush when he gets the ball. Yeah, he seems like he's got a bit of time on his hands when he gets it. So, Jake the Snake Saligo at 10. Now, a guy who would have, in a redraft last year, would have been quite high up. He didn't have quite an impactful season. Sorry, that might have been a little spoiler there. Actually, no. St Kilda are picking next, and they're getting their guy in Mitch Owens. Now, Mitch didn't have as good a season this year. I think that's largely got to do with the fact that St Kilda sucked, and because this guy's playing forward, he didn't really get an opportunity to show his stuff. I still believe in the Mitch Owens hype. With him, can he become an inside player? Can he be like, a prime Jake Stringer where he's getting into the midfield and, he's impacting there, and then he's also going forward and taking contested marks? Because who do you put on this guy? You can't put one of your big guys because, you'd have to put them on Max King or whoever else they're going to get as a second big. But yeah, I really rate Machito Owens. I like his toughness. Maybe I'm underrating him here. Like, if we were talking about it last year, he might have been top 5. Top 6, top 7 maybe in this, in this redraft. But unfortunately, just didn't have quite the same year. And now we sort of forget, if that makes sense, of how good he was. But he's still 11th. Now we're going to go to Port Adelaide. And so they're going to pick... All right, this is where I get a little bit of issues. I'm a bit unsure with what to do here. Because there's a couple small forwards that I'm tossing up between. One being Rochelle, one being Lohman. Now, the recency bias will tell you Lohman, and I think, to be honest, I think that's just how I'm going to go. And it's because he killed it in the final. I think that's something you can't take away from him, to be honest with you. 4 goals in a grand final shows that you're an impact player. You can impact winning. It makes me think, though, if Rochelle was in his position, would Rochelle be better? Maybe. Would he be better? Maybe. Probably. That's the only thing that kind of bugs me about this decision. But you know what? I think we've got to go with what we've seen. Well, this is my opinion, what I've seen. And what I've seen from Lohman is my dad's boy, by the way, as well. With Lohman, he's good around the ground as well. He's a solid mark. He's not the smallest small forward. He's still like a 185. Actually, we'll scroll down. Have a little scroll down here. He's a 185. Yeah, so 185. So he's got a little bit of size to him, but he's still, tackles, he puts pressure on, and around the ground, he does some nice stuff as well. So then, Essendon, I think they would love this guy, actually. They would love a Rochelle right now. Again, so he didn't quite have the impact this year. Look, I think he still managed 30 goals this year, didn't he? He still managed 30 goals. Where is he? Oh, this is slow, man. I really gotta upgrade my internet on my computer or something. But yeah, he still managed 30 goals, but yeah, I think, something about the way he played this year just didn't quite look as, he didn't look as quick. He didn't look as, as impactful as usual, but, he's still up there, still up there quite high on the list. Next player, we're going to go, so a dude, again, didn't have a good year because his team sucked. So who's picking right now? Who's picking? Pick 14. West Coast. So West Coast are selecting Jacob Van Rooyen. So with him, I feel like he's a dude who, yeah, his team sucked, so he wasn't able to really show the best of himself, but he's still a key forward who can take a contested mark. And over the next 10 years, like I think, he'll get stronger. You'd think he'd kick more goals, being that he'll take a few more contested marks and, get himself into better areas. The issue for him, he plays for Melbourne right now, and their forward line's a mess. Their team in general is a mess. So yeah, no real chance to show what he really can do. But yeah, still a very solid player, right? Now pick 15. So it's a GWS pick, but it's going to be a matched bid from Port of Jace Burgoyne. Now, he's broken out this year as a solid wingman, half forward. Had a man of the match performance in the finals, and that's enough for me to just be like, yep, all right, impact's winning, solid player. Still has a bit of room to grow into his body because he's tiny, man. Even now, you look at him and he needs to put a bit more strength. But yeah, good ball user, impacts games. Yeah, and impacts games in the finals, and that's why he's managed to climb up the list from being picked 60 or something this year. Am I overrating him? Am I underrating him? Let me know, guys. Now the next one. So it's a GWS pick, and this one is a dude who maybe I'm buying into the fact that he was second in his team's best and fairest a bit too much, but from the times that I did watch him, Bodie Ueland, right? Bodie Ueland impacts games. So he flies in, takes contested marks, he uses it all right, and he can lock down, a medium forward, maybe even a small. So look, in saying that, I can't say that I watch every single Gold Coast game, but look, this dude had a great season, so I've got to give him his respect. Second in a best and fairest is, above Sam Flanders, and we all love Flanders. So he goes in there. The next one, all right, here's a dude who I think maybe I should have him a bit higher, but I don't know. I don't know if him being this good is off his own bat or if it's because the team that he's in just sort of allows him to flourish, but he's still going to get his flowers nonetheless. And that's Connor McDonald. Now, he's a dude who's top 5 in his team for goal assists, score involvements. I think he managed close to 30 goals. He's a very good player, man. Like, he's a part of that fleet of Nick Watson, Ginnivan, who just impact games and just help Hawthorn win. So he's got to get his flowers, and he's going to be up there. I was in two minds with him and this next guy actually. So this next guy ends up going to Richmond. So they just missed out on their boy. It's Darcy Wilmot. Now Darcy Wilmot, premiership player now. He's got speed. He's got dare. He uses the ball pretty well. Like, has that composure as well. So I think, over the next 10 years, that's the type of guy you want. Just has a bit of dare, dash off halfback. And he's a solid defender as well. He puts in when it's his turn to go in, And yeah, winning a premiership just sort of, puts him slightly higher in my books than maybe a few other dudes a bit lower on this list. Pick 19 goes to Sydney. Goes to Sydney. And actually, that kind of works. So the next one is Sydney, and it's their boy, Matt Roberts. Now, Matt Roberts, drafted as a big body mid, and you can see it. The dude has size to him for a halfback, playing that on the halfback line. Decent ball user, accumulator. Could he use it a bit better? Probably. But I think he's still a very solid player. So Matt Roberts is there on the list. The next, so here it gets a little bit interesting. All right. So I'm going to go. I've got there's a few dudes who I'm just not sure with what I'm going to do with them at this end part of the list. But you know what? This is my list, so I'm just gonna put players that I like. And the player that I like is Paul Curtis from North Melbourne. Probably a bit biased, or very biased probably. But anyway, look, he kicked 30 goals for North Melbourne, and we suck. So I think that says something. He's decent on the ground. Like he's a good crummer. He's a dude who tackles hard. He's strong for a medium, / small forward. He's definitely part of North's, future forward line. Solid player. I really like Paul Curtis. So PC manages to sneak in there. And now, so I can manage to get an extra pick in, right? So I can manage to get an extra pick in. So Melbourne get him. So Brisbane are the last team in the first round. So I'm just going to end that on the first round. And what they're going to do is bid on a player, on a father-son, a North Melbourne boy, and North Melbourne are going to match because we love him, and that's Jackson Archer. Now, obvious bias here, but if you watch any North games, which you shouldn't if you're not a North supporter, you'll notice that Jackson Archer locks down the best small forward on every team, apart from Cody Weightman. Cody Weightman got the better of him. Cody Weightman's a shifty, free kick merchant. But yeah, against a guy like Shai Bolton, kept him to a goal, and then a goal and 12 disposals. So he limits impact of really good players, which I think impacts winning. Also, he's a decent intercept player for his height. Like he manages, if you intercept marks, intercept disposals, spoils. Great player, Jackson Archer. Shout out to him. Hopefully he can keep his body right. This year he showed what he could do without, he said that he wasn't able to kick a footy during preseason because of his groin issues. Now he's going to be able to kick a footy, hopefully, during the preseason, and he'll be able to, build himself up, build up the body. Who knows what he could be next year, but I'm backing him in. So the last pick, here's where I'm not really sure what I want to do. So it's between Lee Kalia, who he hasn't had the opportunity to show how good he is, which is my issue, and why I probably don't want to put him in there. Whereas this guy, Josh Ward, who you're probably going to say he slipped big time, and perhaps he has. He had a good game against the Bulldogs in the finals. I think the issue with him is that he's probably a third or fourth midfielder at best. And at this point of the draft, you'd probably prefer to take the key back in Lee Kalia. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit of a tough one. But I really rate Josh Ward, and I think he had about 11 tackles or something in the final against the Bulldogs. So obviously there's something there. If he's your third or fourth best midfielder, I think you'd be pretty happy. Now, some notable absentees. We're just going to call it snubs because it's easier for me to type out. So there's a few dudes. I'm sorry, guys, that I couldn't fit them in my list. That's Windhager's one. He's probably one of the lower end snubs. I don't know how this guy's going to... Like, he's a decent tagger, but, like, does he have scope to be an actual good inside mid? I don't know. There's him. There's Judd McVee. See, the thing with him, I feel like I don't watch enough Melbourne games, but does he lock down players like a Jackson Archer would, for example? Is he just a beneficiary of having the two best intercept players in the game, in Lever and May? Does he just benefit off that? That's kind of the way I see him. I don't know. I might be wrong. You could even put maybe Howes in that category. Who else have I knocked back? Who else? Looking down the list, right, there's not many dudes who I think, play enough games where they're important to mention here. There was a couple that I was thinking of, and I can't remember. But yeah, look, actually, yeah, we'll add Lee Kalia. Lee Kalia to that list. Look, Lee Kalia just got offered like a 6-year deal by the St Kilda, so who knows, man? Maybe I'm really... I don't know, maybe they're overrating him, or maybe I'm underrating him. I don't really know. Gibcus, again, he's a bit of a snub as well, but just with injuries, you can't, we don't know what we're going to get the next 10 years. But yeah, Brady Hoff, he's all right. He's pretty decent. Is anyone in the rookie draft that I'm missing? Anyone here? Not really, yeah. Carl Warner, he's okay. Charlie Dean, he's there. They're looking to replace him as soon as they can. But anyway, look, so those are my snubs. Let me know what you think of my list. This was just a bit of fun. Don't take it too seriously. If I've missed your favorite player, I'm sorry. And this is just my opinion as well. So it's just like, how much are you going to value that? But yeah, anyway, I think this top 8 is really where all the damage is. And that's where it's interesting. Is Ollie... Have I put Ollie Dempsey too high? Too low? I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thank you if you listened to my rambling this long. Yeah, I enjoyed making that, so that was pretty cool. I enjoyed, formulating the list. Yeah, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Catch us.